Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alex, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the sci-fi novel Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdes, a book I originally picked up because I thought it was a standalone, and come to find out it's actually part of a trilogy, so I am yet again unintentionally involved in the middle of a series. Go me. I decided to pick this up because I could immediately tell that it was a book that didn't take itself too seriously. The cover says, kidnappers, alien emperors, psychic cats, and she's out of coffee, which automatically spoke to my sense of humor, and I was looking for something that was going to be a fun and light sci-fi read. I read many serious and tense stories, sometimes nonfiction, sometimes fiction, and I just needed something that was going to kind of be a palate cleanser, and I thought that this was it. To tell you a little bit of what this book is about, we follow Captain Ava Innocent, who is trying to turn her life around. She formerly was a smuggler who had no qualms about hurting people, and she went on a mission that got a lot of people killed, and she decided that she didn't want to live that life anymore, so she now has a smaller crew, and they have a single ship where they run around and deliver small deliveries for even smaller profit. That is until she's contacted by the mysterious group known as the Fridge, who are notorious for kidnapping loved ones and putting them into cryosleep until they are paid their ransom. And in this case, the loved one that was taken is Ava's sister, and the Fridge does not want any ransom money, but instead they want to utilize Ava's skills. Starting out with the title of the book, Chilling Effect is awesome because it has a double meaning. First, of course, it's hilarious because the antagonist is known as the Fridge, but Chilling Effect also means when somebody refrains from expressing themselves fully because they have a fear of retaliation. In this case, Ava can't tell her crew, who are basically her found family, why they're going on all of these dangerous missions, because the Fridge said, well, if you tell anybody why you're doing this, we're going to end up hurting your sister. And so Ava has to lie to the people that she loves most. The cast is complex because you could argue that this is a found family story, but the only perspective that we're getting is from Ava and seeing things through her eyes. And I kind of have a love-hate relationship with her because she's this rough around the edges, kind of runs by her own code character, but she's also trying to turn her life around, and she deeply cares about her crew. She is a morally gray character, which also made her more compelling. I was really engaged with the story. Vacker by far is my favorite character, which leads me to talking about the alien races and why this story is a huge nod to franchises past. Vacker is a part of the alien species known as the Quenians, and they are described as having facial palps, pangolin-like scales, and they emit scent in order to express their emotions because they don't have facial features the way that humans do. The Quenians are one of the only alien races that are truly described in here. Many different ones are brought up, so we know that this is a universe that contains all sorts of life, but we don't focus on all of them. Sometimes we only get 1 to 2 descriptors before we move on, so I didn't get a real sense of knowing all of the alien races by the time this book was over, but maybe they'll be described more later on in the series. But the Quenians were awesome, and they played a huge role. I also really appreciated how all of the worlds had a different culture about them and something that was unique that I hadn't heard in other books. So for example, there's this one planet that they travel to where if you don't have your identification card on you at all times, it's free game for the residents of the planet to shoot you and sell you for meat, which is wild and a really cool and terrifying idea. There are also so many fucking Mass Effect references in here that it's kind of off-putting. I got them because I'm a major nerd who's obsessed with that franchise. I mean, I have so many Mass Effect things in here, you don't even see it. I have a ton of Mass Effect merch all over my entire house. But if you have never played the games, it's probably going to come across just as regular world building for you, so I decided to list out all of the references in order. For starters, there's a female hero known as Commander Schaefer, who is known for single-handedly saving a colony, which if you've played the Mass Effect games, you know is one of the backgrounds that you can choose for Commander Shepard, and in the games it is referred to as the Blitz. Next is the space station that is home to a lot of mercenaries called Omicron and is run by a purple alien named Armida, whose seat of power is in a bar and strip joint, which of course is reference to Omega, whose ruler is Arya, and her seat of power is also in a bar and strip joint. Then there's the alien species that disappeared millennia ago that left behind technology that allowed other races to travel across the galaxy, and they also left behind relics that people like to study, and that alien species is called the Proharchy, which of course is a reference to the Protheans, and the technology that lets people travel across the galaxy would be the mass relays. The Fridges system is kind of like that of the Shadow Brokers, honestly. There are jokes about elevators and the news playing in the elevator, which if you know, you know. And there are wraiths, which are essentially the exact same thing as a specter. So there are a ton of references in here, and some that I can't even tell you about because it would be considered spoilers for this story. But I will say that Mass Effect is not the only franchise that is beloved by many that is referenced. So if you play a lot of video games, you'll probably get the others. Are there some details that are derivative? Yes, 100%. Did Valdes add enough other unique ideas to the story to make it not egregious and its own thing? Yes. It's cool to see another Shepard fan, even if I don't necessarily want those references in another novel. I at least got to nerd out and be like, oh, I get that. The humor isn't too highbrow. There are a lot of sci-fi elements, but I definitely would not consider this to be high sci-fi. It's easily accessible because it's just meant to be a fun book. I want to give Valdes props for actually taking risks in Chilling Effect in a way that I didn't expect her to. Personally, I thought that this was going to be more in line with like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where we're going from insane scenario to insane scenario and it just doesn't stop. But this book does take some pauses, never in a boring way. It's always engaging, but it has moments where it slows down and speeds up again. There's a tenseness, there's emotion, there's a sense of loss for Ava, and each one of the crew members experiences something different. Everybody is affected by the missions that she is going on and that she's not telling them why they're doing this. I thought that it was great, and I appreciate that Ava gets to see how her decisions impact other people and not just herself. If there's one thing that took me out of the story regularly, it was actually the fact that the book is partially written in Spanglish. There are many Spanish phrases that I had to look up, and that's because Valerie Valdes is a Cuban-American author, and she speaks Spanglish, like she grew up with that, so she wanted to incorporate that with her character, and I respect that. And so definitely it didn't bother me, but I had to frequently stop, go on to Google Translate, figure out what everybody was saying, and then go back into the story. So if you're somebody that does speak English and Spanish, you're probably going to have a super easy time reading this, and you may even find that really fun because it's not something that you typically see really in any book, but definitely not in sci-fi. I learned some, we'll say, interesting Spanish curses as well as some fun phrases that I had never heard before. So for example, arroz con mango literally translates to rice and mango, but in Cuban, it is a slang term for "it's complicated," which I thought was hilarious. And Ava also uses this phrase at one point which says, "The devil knows a lot because he's old, not because he's the devil," which I think is a really cool phrase, but she also uses it to describe her own father. So there are a ton of dynamics going on in the story. I thought it was a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend that you pick this up. However, I cannot in good faith give Chilling Effect 5 stars because, again, we didn't explore the alien races as much as I would have liked to, and some of the details are derivative of other franchises, so it's not a perfect story. But it doesn't have to be perfect to be enjoyable, and I would definitely say that this story is. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the sequel at some point. I definitely would consider reading this again in the future. It's just not the same level as like a Becky Chambers novel, because Becky Chambers to me is like the thing that everybody should aspire to. Still had a lot of fun. I would definitely say you should think about picking this up, and I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. Please let me know down in the comments if you have read Chilling Effect or are interested in picking it up, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, that you all stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.